This is the program where anything is up for discussion. You got me, Jeff, and alongside returning is the lovely Shannon. Hey, Shan.
Hey, Jeff.
What's going on, kiddo?
Not much. How you doing?
Well, it's been a little bit of a crazy week, and I kind of wanted to put you on the ball right away tonight because there is a very important public service announcement that we need to make. You may or may not remember what happened to you this past week, but you were almost a victim of a scam. And I think you should tell the loyal listeners, not only in the Leominster area, but everybody listening. And
I forgot about that.
What's going on? What's going on with the scam?
Yeah, that was interesting. At my place of employment, which is mine, Shan Cakes, I received a phone call. An employee of mine received a phone call from National Grid saying that my electricity was going to be shut off in 1 hour. I needed to call them right back. So, of course, I called them because I was not present there to receive the phone call. And they just asked they just asked my name and didn't ask the name of the business or an account number, which I immediately started to think was a little fishy. Okay. And you can hear people wailing away in the background, like buzzing away, and that kind of sounded a little different to me. And I said, "What are you talking about? I owe, And he says, "I need a credit card number. We need at least $500 to keep your electricity on." And I said, "But I've paid all my bills." Mm-hmm. And he said, then his voice got louder. He said, "We need to get $500 in order to keep your account open." And I'm like, "Yeah, okay." I said, "So I'm pretty suspicious of this." I said, "You're not National Grid, are you?" He goes, "Yes, we're National Grid." And I told him to go pound sand very nicely. And hung up, immediately called the police non-emergency line and did confirm that this is indeed a scam going around. So if you get any phone calls from National Grid demanding money over the phone, guys, just hang up on them. Well, my employees should have known better, to be honest with you. But National Grid's never going to demand money over the phone, ever. It's utility. They can't just do that. Right. They would. He says, "Oh, we've been sending you notices." I said, "No, I didn't get a single one." So just ignore them. Don't even waste your time. Well,
fortunately for you, you pay your bill in full every month, and you had no balance. So when they tried to tell you you had a balance, that was a very big flag for you. Now, but I will tell you that there are probably a lot of people in New England, especially, that had a rough winter. After this winter, they're probably still catching up on their utility bills. They'll let you. But how easy would it be for that scammer to say, "Hey, okay, well, they get some information, they start talking back and forth. Hey, you have a balance and we need to get a payment today, or we're going to shut you off." Well, geez, I told them I was going to pay $100 by next Thursday. Well, you got to pay that $100 right now. So you imagine those people that might have some sort of balance would be really susceptible to a scam like that, Shannon. Well, they would have to know whether or not they've received several disconnect notices, first of all. Second of all, again, no utility company is going to demand a credit card over the phone, ever. So that just doesn't happen that way, and more people do need to be aware. We could have nipped that in the bud with the first phone call that went through. I called, of course, because it was coming into my business, but people can easily fall for that, absolutely. And I wonder how much money they have gotten away with. But I'm really concerned that we haven't been notified in any way, shape, or form from the city or the state that this kind of scam is going around. So buyer beware, guys. You just got to be careful if anybody ever asks you for money over the phone instantly. Not any good. Not any good. Oh yeah. So what can folks do to to protect themselves? I mean, what can they do to sniff something like this out? Well, I believe the FTC Commission, the FTC is already on it. They're already looking into complaints. They said that the police said that I could contact the FTC, but if they're already on it, then there's no point in me doing that. Okay. I'm sure they've already got that 800 number that I called. So. Once I verify that they're on it, I just kind of let it go. But no need to call 911 if you're getting a National Grid scam alert, because they already are aware of it, and it's already being investigated by the government. So I don't really, to be honest with you, I'm not sure what else you can do above and beyond that. Just be aware and spread the word. I guess, what I'm asking is you're pretty savvy. You didn't owe any money. No. But somebody getting that phone call, what kind of questions should they ask? What should they be looking for in order to prevent that? Off the bat, be suspicious that they didn't even ask you for your account number. They may ask you for an address or your first name or a last name, but again, no account number was needed. That kind of tipped me right off the bat that this wasn't legit, because National Grid would always ask you for your account number, and then they would ask you to verify with your last digits of your social security number. So
Be careful. The second thing is, if it sounds like they're calling from a call center and the man has an accent, I'm not trying to be judgmental here, but chances are that this was not a Massachusetts company such as National Grid, where they do operate, I believe, out of Westboro or the Boroughs area. And second of all, credit card number up front, never. No utility company is ever going to ask you for a credit card up front. That's just not going to happen.
It's usually, if I remember correctly, it's hard to pay with a credit card. They want you to either pay in person or money order or whatever. I don't even think they let you pay with a credit card.
I've seen them like offer to do ACH, I believe, but this was a feeling of they really just wanted to get that credit card. They were just rushing me along, saying, "Well, didn't you get the notices?" Well, no, I didn't get any notices because I pay my bills on time. But again, they're just taking a chance. They're going to get somebody to say, "Oh yeah, I did get some notices." You know what I mean? They're gonna just keep trying until one person falls through the cracks. A very small percentage of you are going to fall for this. But National Grid guys, don't pay any attention. Even if you're behind in your bill, they're never going to ask you for a credit card over the phone ever. Okay. Don't give out your social either.
No, never do that. Never do that.
Ever.
And you did dial the 911 non-emergency number, and Nathan alludes to an obscure reference. We're going to relive that here.
You're calling 911 because you don't like the way that they're making your sandwich?
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, I did have a little bit more of an emergency than that, Jeffrey. But I mean, this was a person trying to scam me. But no, we don't call 911 because we can't get a sandwich made exactly how we want.
We're reliving something there. That's all.
Although some people would think they need to call 911 over cake, but no. We're all good. So just be aware, guys. Please tell family members, too, especially the elderly. Please just talk to your mom and dad or your sister or your brother or your nephews and nieces. Just let them know that there's a 911, a National Grid scam going around, that they tried to take advantage of me, and it can happen to you guys and your family.
Happen.
Oh, no. No. I pay my bills.
Now, have we heard anything through social media or contact that we're seeing this anywhere else in the country?
Or to be honest with you, it was the first I ever heard of it, and the last I heard of it, I didn't spend too much time researching this because it's been so busy. But, just be aware. I mean, they'll find other ways, too, phone bills and mobile this, and they even scam people through disaster relief.
Yeah.
I just always go with the name and never give out your credit card over the phone to a utility company or anybody that you're unaware. If anybody calls you and tries to talk to you into thinking you have an overdue bill when you don't,
And don't be afraid to call back. Say, hey, let me gather my information, and I'll call you right back with that payment. We have until 5 o'clock tonight, so let me call back.
And you know what? And when in doubt, call 911. I mean, don't listen to me. I mean, if you're in doubt, call 911. They'll verify just like they did for me.
They'll listen to you.
But the National Grid one is a known scam, so you don't have to call 911 about National Grid. But if you're in doubt, call 911.
All right. And other than that, just call Shannon. She'll take care of it for you, right?
Yeah, and one of our chatters says that he was scammed from the IRS call himself. So it must have been like back owed taxes or something. You owe this. You know what? That rings a bell with me. I wonder if I got a call like that myself, because I remember hearing someone at some point calling me saying that I owed money and they could take a credit card over the phone in order to clear that up. And it was like, oh, shut up. I just immediately hung up on them.
I'd love to hear a little bit more.
Greg, why don't you call in?
About that IRS scam. If we can call in, 323-902-6661 is the number here to call if you'd like to be part of the conversation and put your 2 cents in. We certainly appreciate everybody chiming in and tuning in as we stream around the world, Shannon, now over 87 different countries. Imagine that. We want to thank those making this responsible. Those were it's our supporters and our trusty sponsors, starting, of course, with our oldest and most trusty sponsor, Lemonster Storage Solutions over there on Central Street, now in the midst of a major expansion. You can find out more by calling them at 466-8887 or visiting them online at lemonsterstorage.solutions.com. And, of course, your little lovely over there is the head of the most incredible bakery this side of the Mississippi River. And, of course, we're talking about
biased.
Shan Cakes. And no bias there at all. It's just unbelievable. And even if you weren't my wife, even if you weren't like my partner in crime here, I would still like be over there 5 times a week, and I would be a house. It's
good
wicked
for you.
It's wicked good.
It makes people happy. You know, sweets are making a comeback. I gotta say.
Yeah.
I mean, not only cupcakes are just enormously huge, but I gotta say, donuts are making a comeback. There are shops popping up all over the place that had gone out in the 90s and 2000s. So,
because who doesn't like cake, right?
Well, I mean, look at In-N-Out Burger. It just finally broke through Massachusetts.
It did. Oh, huge news. And you know, not only like
bad things are coming back.
Not only are we going to get In-N-Out Burger like coming close to Boston now in Mendon, they broke ground today. But Shannon, after this many years, Outback finally figured out they should be doing lunch.
Hey.
I mean, really, it only took them this long to figure out. Hey, we need a lunch menu. I mean, come on, guys. I have been asking for this for years. I mean, Outback has such a great menu. The wings are tremendous. You know, why not lunch? Why do you think it took us so long, Shan?
I have no idea, because I mean, who opens up a restaurant that only is, like, starts opening at 4, and it's an incredibly popular steakhouse that doesn't even exist in Australia? I don't know. It's just ass backwards, especially that location.
I know.
I never understood that. I mean, why not be open for lunch? Everybody else is in the world. Like, Longhorn's open for lunch.
It is. Everybody is.
Like, I mean, I hope they do well. I guess there was...
And, you know, not for nothing. I mean, people's shifts now are not 9 to 5. I mean, everybody's all over the place. There's so many people that are self-employed, you know, working around the clock, burning both ends of the candle. You know, and people that we know, you know, lunch for them is breakfast for somebody else. So, I mean, it's good that they're offering food more hours during the day. So,
absolutely.
Once again, we want to thank everybody that is responsible for making this program possible. And we want to start with everybody over at LATV. Carl and Tina, Jack, Jane, and Robert do a fantastic job over there. And they are right now going through a very painful time with the construction. There's a lot of dust floating around, which is not good for the equipment. So,
can you imagine how the food's going to be when that place is done?
Well, you know, it's funny, we're talking about that, and there is some concern because there's a restaurant going in downstairs, and you know, there's a lot of cleanup to be done. But I guess there's some sort of barrier that they are putting in because of that very thing, Shannon. So your prayers will be answered, and the food hopefully will be pretty good.
Not even sperm will get through.
Not even. What the hell made you say that?
I said barrier.
Right.
By the way, that's 196 countries in the world. How come we're only up to 87?
Well, we're getting there. One country at a time.
Technically, it exceeds 200 countries, but it's hard to count them.
It is hard to count them.
Yeah, we need to exceed 87.
All right. Well, we'll work on that. We got to reach out to folks all over the place as we do, and you know, through social media. We've watched this grow. We're coming up now. It'll be 6 complete years for us, Shannon, on June 16th.
6 long years.
Which is just right around the corner. But who'd have thought, you know, 6 years ago that we'd still be doing this, you know?
Yay.
Looks like we got a call coming in. All right.
Let's talk about scams.
You're on with Jeff and Shannon. Go ahead.
Hello, it's Greg.
Hey, Greg.
Hi, Greg.
Thanks for calling in, buddy.
It's my stalker.
Thank you.
All right, we want to hear about the IRS scam. What do you got? Oh, you got to turn your computer down, too.
Okay, yeah, let me turn that
sound
down for the feedback. All right, it was basically the same thing about what Shannon got. You got to get the call, and, you know, they're saying about the notices. I haven't, you know, responded to the notices, and that I needed to speak to somebody right away for... They found discrepancy in my filing, and I mean, I did it online. True, I have somebody to do it, and I know that was total BS. So I mean, it's just you know, it's probably the same kind of scam people, you know, because it just sounded the same thing. You know, you didn't. We sent out all this stuff. You're not responding. You need to deal with it right away. Or, you know, we're going to come after you. So basically, just hang up on them.
Is that what you did? How did you handle it? Would you just hang up and you sniffed it out?
Yeah, I mean, then, you know, it came out about there was an IRS scam about them calling people about money owed. And so, you know, once I heard that, I just, you know, because, you know, number one, they're not going to call you. it came out that they won't call you. They will send you something and notify you by mail.
Mm-hmm.
And I never received anything in the mail, so them calling is not legitimate.
No.
True story. I used to know a person that worked as one of the higher-ups for Sears and Roebuck, and every year they would put a 50-cent fraudulent charge on every Sears and Roebuck cardholder's account. True story. True story. Heard this from the top, right from the horse's mouth. Now, you can imagine, Greg, how many millions of Sears card account holders there are. Many of them probably wouldn't care too much about 50 cents. I mean, it's only 50 cents. They don't have time to deal with that. And let me tell you, that was instantly millions of free dollars for Sears. So, man, there's scams everywhere. There really is.
The phone company does the same thing, too, on those little hidden costs.
Sure.
Charges that come out, and you're like, what's this 2-3 cents? And stuff adds up.
It does. It does. Definitely thank you so much for calling in and sharing your story with us. And we definitely want to alert those around the country that there are scams everywhere. So
bad people.
And, not for nothing, these guys that are scamming and collecting money, they should just go to work for a collection agency, because the collection agencies aren't doing too good these days. They probably would love somebody like that working for them. Wouldn't you think, Shan?
I would absolutely agree with you, 100%. If people are going to fall for that, then come work for me, because I have bills that I need to collect.
Shan's got plenty of hiring to do. So, all right, Greg, thanks for calling, buddy. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Greg.
I'll listen back, and thank you.
All right.
Bye.
All right. That is Greg from the 610 area sharing his story about a possible scam out there, which is
IRS.
It surprised me when you got the call, Shan. I was really surprised. I really was.
I was too. I mean, that's not something that comes along every day.
No.
But you just have to be on it. I'm surprised that remember Call Trace?
Oh yeah.
Like when your friends used to prank you all the time, you just had to have 3. Like, how come this stuff isn't readily available, even with caller ID?
I know.
Why can't we just dial a number that alerts people about scams? It's just happening so much. Like this direct number, like star, I don't know, 1-2, and then boom, like it traces the call, and then these people, the feds can just get right on it. I don't understand that.
Well, there is a new level of scamming out there, and it really has to do with the smartphone and the interweb, as they say.
No
I mean, people can break into your cars now using handheld mobile devices. They can walk down the street and steal your identity. I mean, it's scary out there. So I guess the message in short, Shan, is buyer beware, be extra careful, make the extra phone call, don't just make a payment. Don't make a payment over the phone with a credit card. Make sure stuff is legit. If you're paying your bills and you're working hard, at least you want to make sure that the money goes to the right place. So definitely. All right. Guys, we got a great show for you tonight. We've got a lot to cover. Later in the show, we're going to be talking about the heroin addiction in this country that is becoming an absolute epidemic. And also, there was also some other news around the country that I think we should get to besides, what everybody's talking about, which we're going to get to here in just a second. But, man, it's monopolized the news. It has been everywhere. And there's so much more going on. These poor people in Nepal that have had their second earthquake in a matter of weeks. The last one just last week at 7.3 killed another 40-plus people.
What's the death toll up to now?
Don't know. But, the first one was hundreds, and then this was, just a couple days after. They're still finding people out there. It's just a mess. And, with all that going on in the world, who'd think that we're talking about deflated football still, but we are. Breaking news coming out of New England, and the New England Patriots owner Robert Kraft today took the stand, so to speak, in a news conference that was put together by himself and Commissioner Roger Goodell, and basically stood up there and said, we're very unhappy with the findings. We think that it's a bunch of BS. We think the punishment is way over the top, but we're going to take it. We're going to accept the punishment. We are not going to appeal. And, I think it sent an absolute shudder through everybody here in New England when I heard him say that, because everybody was like, yeah, we got to fight this to the end. They're innocent. They're getting railroaded. Everybody, hates us because they ain't us kind of thing. And there earlier in the week, Shannon, there were 2 employees that were fired by the Patriots, 2 of the employees that handle the balls.
Wonder why.
Jastrzemski and I want to think of the other guy's name. It was either Murphy or Murray or something like that. But 2 guys were let go as a result, and everybody thought that was going to be it. Everybody kind of thought that Roger Goodell and Robert Kraft got together, which they did before the owners' meetings in San Francisco. They were seen together dining in a fancy restaurant the day before yesterday, and it appeared that the NFL was kind of pressuring the Patriots to let these 2 individuals go. And we thought maybe that was going to be it. Maybe it was going to be something where, everybody got together and sentences were reduced and fines were reduced. Because, Shannon, say what you will, but this is the biggest fine ever imposed by the NFL on a single team. Okay?
And what's that fine, Jeff?
It is $1 million.
Okay.
Okay. Conversely speaking, the San Diego Chargers, just a few years ago, were caught red-handed putting stickum on towels and doctoring up footballs for Phil Rivers, then quarterback. And they got caught hiding the towels, which were eventually found. They found all the evidence. And guess what their fine was, Shannon?
$25,000.
$25,000. That's right.
Because
you're like the greatest football fan in the world now.
Big time, huge.
You know that.
It's ridiculous.
So, the punishment definitely doesn't fit the crime. Robert Kraft stood up and said that, but he looked defeated. And he said, for the sake of the game, for the sake of his relationship with Roger Goodell, who he still respects greatly, he is going to accept the fine, accept the punishment, and move on, and hopefully put this thing to bed. Now, the question on everybody's mind is, where does this leave quarterback Tom Brady? Now, this is a completely separate issue with Brady than it is with the league, with Kraft and the owners, I should say. Everybody now is thinking that, kind of like a plea bargain, Kraft is going to take the hit, Brady's going to get the easy path now, because Robert Kraft did the right thing and, is an ambassador of the game and for the preservation of the integrity of the game of football. He took one on the chin so that hopefully Roger Goodell would let Tom Brady go free and not have any suspension at all. Now, Shannon, your thoughts?
This whole thing is just really stupid. I mean, you're right. How does one football team get fined $25,000 for fraud, and they're going to fine us $1 million? There's a kind of a gap there of like
$975,000.
Yeah, just a little bit. I gotta say though, are you gonna play that entertaining clip for us?
I played it last week.
I know, but it's entertaining.
I know. We'll have to do it later.
Well, why does Kraft look so damn orange in that picture? It looks bad.
Well, he does, because he gets a good tan, but.
Does he really?
There's so many things about this that are wrong. I mean, first of all, since the beginning of time, quarterbacks have had a preference for footballs. Going back to the 70s, Joe Namath himself, one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play the game, said it doesn't make a damn difference if the ball is a pound or two inflated, up, down, or sideways. It doesn't matter. And for those who don't play in the NFL, for those who have never participated in a professional sport like that, or that are trainer, I challenge you to pick up 2 footballs, one being of proper weight by NFL specifications and one being just a pound under. And I challenge you to see if there is an absolute difference. As we discussed last week, one of the major concerns too, that's only half the equation, Shannon. Even if you're not a football fan, you got to understand that Tom Brady's throwing the football, and you know what? When the Patriots,
somebody else is catching
that's right.
it.
When the Patriots lost the Super Bowl to the Giants, Giselle came out on camera, and everybody was talking about how she was pissed off. She sat there in the runway of the locker room saying, "My husband can't do everything. He can only throw the football. Somebody has to catch it." And she was referring to Wes Welker, who dropped the pass that could have actually put them in a position to win the game. So it's only half the equation, and I don't know what the big deal is. But, that being said, the Patriots are now accepting the largest fine in NFL history, Shannon.
But these guys are not like losing their Super Bowl title or anything. I mean, ultimately, is that what these other leagues wanted to happen? Was this the goal, was to strip Brady of his title and his team? What's a financial hit going to be?
There's a lot of discussion about what the goal is because Tom Brady is the face of the franchise when it comes to the New England Patriots and possibly the face of the NFL in general. I mean, he is the one that's making the money. He is probably one of the most recognized athletes on the planet. Do you really want to put him in a position where people are going to hate him? I mean, and hate the game of football maybe as a result of it? I don't know. Did he do it? I honestly don't know. I mean, I think that he
didn't do it. Tom Brady wasn't deflating footballs. The camera was on the guy the entire time. How can you even question whether or not Tom Brady did it? That's what kills me is why are they targeting Tom?
Well, I will tell you why, and I'm just playing the devil's advocate here to keep the conversation going. They're saying that, and the way the preparation of football, Shannon, goes, it's a week-long process. The team gets the game footballs and practices with them throughout the week. The quarterback is allowed to select certain footballs that he wants to use during the course of the game, maybe rub them up a little bit, and he more or less says, hey, I like these footballs. Now, does he say let air out of the footballs to below NFL specifications? He's going to say no, and I believe him. I don't think that Tom Brady would do anything outside of the rules of the game to put the game's in integrity in question. And here's the biggest kicker. I don't think he needs to, ladies and gentlemen. Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback in our era and perhaps all time. The second half of that game with the Indianapolis Colts, 28-0. The Super Bowl, beating one of the most storied defenses perhaps in NFL history. Tom Brady doesn't need to have a deflated football to beat you, and he's going to show you that next year. So, it's going to be an interesting thing to see how many games he has, because right now the fine and the penalty stand at 4 games. So it's going to be very interesting to see if what Bob Kraft said today has an impact on Roger Goodell and how that appeal goes, because that appeal may be heard by Roger Goodell himself. It may be heard by an independent arbitrator. It may end up going to court. And really, if it goes to court, the text messages that everybody's talking about is going to be what's called in question. And I don't think it's as much, Shannon, as letting air out of the footballs. I think it's the way the Patriots have been so defiant through this process. Everybody talks about the Patriot way and the Patriot franchise and how they're a model franchise and all this stuff. But, they have more or less put themselves above all of the other owners and franchises by saying, we're too good for this. We're not going to accept this. We're going to stand firm and, call bullshit on everything. And unfortunately, there's 31 other owners out there that are part of this. And Robert Kraft is part of that group, too. Robert Kraft was elected to come and do great things here in the NFL. He has been a huge part of the negotiations with television and making bazillions of dollars for the NFL. So it's a very, very tough day all the way around. I mean, there was a lot of shock in New England when this story came out that Robert Kraft just stood up there and took it on the chin, accepted a $1 million unprecedented fine.
Whose pocket does that come out of? Just the Patriots?
It does come out of the Patriots' pocket, and the money goes to charity. So it isn't something that is going to benefit any particular person, but it will go to a charity, and it does come right off the top. And I'll tell you what the worst part about this is, Shannon, and people that don't know the game of football would probably not realize this, but it's the draft picks. We lost a first-round draft pick next year.
There was no proof. That's what kills me. There's no proof of this.
There's no proof of anything. There's absolutely no proof of anything. And the Indianapolis Colts took this to the press before taking it to the league. And the whole thing got blown up out of proportion that way. And it's kind of their role in this thing. When years go by and this whole thing kind of sifts through the ashes and everybody's looking at this story, the Indianapolis Colts are not going to be excused from looking, not looking like idiots here, because they got smoked in the football game. They can't beat the Patriots to begin with. And they went behind the league's back to report this to the press, to leak this to the press before the league was able to take proper action on it. And what I mean by proper action is in years past when, stick'em used to be an issue, when different things to gain an advantage used to be an issue, the NFL would talk to the team and say, look, you're on the radar. People know you're doing this. cut the shit, or we're going to have to fine you. We're going to have to make something happen. That never came from the league. That came from the Indianapolis Colts through the press saying, this whole thing happened and they cheated and they're terrible. And, what a bunch of sore-ass losers.
Seriously.
I'm sorry. It's just, take your damn footballs and go home because we're going to kick the shit out of you next year as well. But, I did put it up for this week's public opinion question. And in this week's public opinion, we were talking about the Deflategate. We were asking folks how the Robert Kraft press conference today might affect Tom Brady. And there was a few comments there, as there was all through the week, hoping that there was a behind-the-scenes deal where Kraft agreed to back off and let Brady pursue appeals on his own, and in return, the commissioner promised to reduce the suspension, but make it appear like he's not yielding to the NFL's most powerful owner. And that's a pretty common hypothesis out there. It is no secret that Kraft and Goodell are good friends, and it's no secret that Robert Kraft is one of the most powerful owners of the NFL. He carries great clout. But there are 31 other owners out there, and every one of them has a market. Every one of them contributes. And when you talk about a collective bargaining agreement, Shannon, all of the money that the NFL makes, let's say they make $30 billion next year, that is shared revenue. Not just because the Patriots have a bigger market, they get more money. Even the Tennessee Titans of the world, sorry Titans fans, or Eric Singleton and the Carolina Panthers down there, just because they don't have a big market, they get an equal share of the NFL revenue, just as if they were a big market. So every team has a vested interest in this. Every team has a vested interest in the face of the franchise or the face of the NFL. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see how all this affects TB12 and what happens in the next upcoming days with his appeal. And there isn't having a date set as to when the appeal will happen, how long it will take to appeal. This is all something now that is breaking, and we'll keep everybody up to date as things happen. But, there's a lot of other things happening around the world, and it kind of pisses me off a little bit that we've now spent the better part of 4 months talking about Deflategate and taking air out of footballs for a football game. And there's a lot of other serious stuff going on, Shannon. Why isn't anybody talking about the 2 cops killed in Mississippi?
Well, they were, example? But then there's been tornadoes and earthquakes in between too, so. It depends what it's the media's fault, what they're feeding us. Absolutely.
This is a perfect example, ladies and gentlemen, of how the media controls you. And we've done a show on how the media controls you. When things happen in Ferguson and things happen there, we had a huge outpouring of rebellion and support. And even down in Baltimore just recently, there was a huge riot. Riots day after day.
What's going on with that? Is this thing settling down?
Well, it is. But my point is that we have 2 officers here: Benjamin Dean, 34 years old, and LaCorey Tate, 24 years old, respectively. Were making a routine traffic stop. The stop resulted in a hail of gunfire. Both officers were shot and pronounced dead at the hospital. Okay, here's a white cop and a black cop shot by 2 black guys. All right, what are you idiots that are out there saying Black Lives Matter and this is a white people's problem and it's racist this and everybody, all these white cops are killing black people? What do you idiots have to say now? Seriously,
let's just kill everybody because they're just free reign. Let's just take lives now because a life for a life, right?
Yeah,
so stupid.
If we're going to go, an eye for an eye, why are white people rioting over this? Saying, hey, there was a black guy that shot a white cop. You know why? Because it happens every day. And it just hasn't been something that we've used the race card on. And you're right, Shannon. You're 100% right. It's the media that controls us and gets us all fired up about things. How in the world they've kept football on the radar at this time of year? The poor Red Sox. The poor baseball teams out there.
Red who?
Yeah. Well, they suck this year, but that's beside the point. But nobody's talking about baseball because of what's going on with the Patriots. And you know what? It's a brilliant move. If Roger Goodell is using this as a marketing tool, then he's got to be the most brilliant man on the planet, because everybody is now talking about the NFL when nobody's playing a game, which is unbelievable. Unbelievable. And what really kills me is that these are the things that are just evidence of how the media controls you. We should be talking about the problems in our country. We should be talking about cops being killed. We should be taking precautions.
I mean, unfortunately, there's nothing we can do about it. Like people like you and me, there's nothing. All we can do is just sit back and keep the peace. But the rest of the country just seems all justified in getting violent.
Well, I don't know exactly what you mean by that, because I think there's something that every single human being...
What can you do to prevent a cop from getting killed? Or what can you do to prevent a cop from killing somebody?
What can I do personally?
Yeah, personally.
I think education is the main thing. Speaking with people every chance you get, making sure that, children that are learning from you, people that are watching you, setting an example for God's sakes. Maybe finding stories about people that are doing good things out there.
That's good on one end, but there are still police officers killing innocent people on the street. I mean, don't forget why these riots have been started in the first place.
Okay.
It goes both ways, unfortunately.
Well, yeah, I mean, and that's what the other side is calling for too, is education and training, because Shannon, it's a new world. Mm-hmm. I mean, the bad guys out there are different bad guys than there were 30 years ago.
Oh yeah.
And there is bad cops out there. There's no doubt about it. There's bad cops. There's bad firemen. There's bad postal workers. There's bad bakers. There's people that make too moist cake. I mean, Jesus, there's all kinds of problems out there. But not to diminish the subject matter, but there's a lot of good cops out there too, and everybody deserves to go home to their family at the end of a hard day. It's just something that I think the world should be talking about more than deflated footballs. I think we should be trying to find some resolution. And you're right, Shannon. Maybe you and I can't do a whole lot, but the guy that should be doing a whole lot is kind of absent through this whole thing. And I'm talking about our fearless leader, Barack Obama. Why isn't he stepping up and saying, this is not, and if anybody has seen, look it up online on YouTube. I typed in black woman from Baltimore, and it comes up, this lady's name is Battle Cat. Mm-hmm. I can't play it over the air because there's a few obscenities in there, but I will tell you that this lady has nailed it. In the context of what she says, hits right on the money. I mean, she says,
first right, I gotta admit.
First of all, she says that the problem is not necessarily the kids. The problem lies with the parents, because the parents that are raising them are just as big pieces of shit as the kids that are going out there and being allowed to steal, to get into gangs, mm-hmm. to get into drugs. And the parents, be it, dad's probably out of the picture by now, but mom and grandma are giving these kids a place to come home and rest their heads without any repercussions or penalties. Mm-hmm. So it starts with the parents, number one. And number two, this lady nailed it. She says, black people are misinformed. They are absolutely misinformed about what's going on in the world today. This is not a white person's problem. There are good black people out there that care about our country, just as are there white people. There is bad white people out there that could be in the same category as these idiots. There are gang-related activities and drugs and all this stuff. But this is not a white person's problem, white people problem. This is a black person's problem, according to Battle Cat. And she says it has to be dealt with immediately. And Shannon, I would vote for her for president.
I would too, except she's got to lose a blue lipstick.
Yeah,
I don't get it. But how do you take a woman with blue lips seriously? Check her pulse. But no, she actually did have a lot of good things to say. I agree. But not every black kid out there is living with grandma and grandpa either. I mean, yeah, it's you may have good parents. Look at the woman who beat the kid over his head.
Love it.
While he was out in the middle of a riot. That was a good parent right there. What caused that kid to go bad? You know what I mean?
Yep.
So there's just so many different matrices of what could be going on here. But she's right, though. It is not a white person problem. This is a black person problem.
No. And I think what she was alluding to with the parents, and to take a quote from her, is that, these kids, the parents that are raising this kid should have their foot so far up the kid's ass
it's true.
that they wouldn't even know what looting is. And that's a direct quote from that lady. And that, kudos to the lady we see on television for grabbing the kid, ripping his hood off, and saying, "Get your ass home," taking him by the ear and marching him down the street. He's probably got a 9mm in one hand, and mom's got him by the ear in the other. But off they go, and I hope she.
Looting's so stupid. Like, what does looting get? What does it get you except for like a locked phone or, some prescriptions? It's so stupid.
That's the thing. They loot into CVS. And they go right
are
for
you
the
making a
Oxycontin.
statement? Are you changing the world? Are you telling everyone that you're mad that the cops killed your friend? Come on.
Well, it's a great segue, Shannon, because a lot of this stuff, unfortunately, is drug-related and drug-driven. And we're going to get to that in just a minute when we get back from our break. We're going to go into the epidemic that is now in the U.S., and it has to do with heroin. The things that we have found out by researching this are going to shock you. And when we come back, your little lovely there is going to be doing her little thing called Who Does That? Stick around.
Hey, me.
Up for discussion with Jeff and Shannon Sylvia. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Up for Discussion Live is brought to you in part by Lemonster Storage Solutions, Mariano's Restaurante, Sasquatch Coffee, and Village Pizza.
And now back to Up for Discussion right here on Pararock TV.
Hear that music, it can only mean one thing. It's that segment of the program when Shannon Sylvia asks, who does that? And now, ladies and gentlemen, I give you Shannon Sylvia. Okay, do it again. There you go.
Hello.
There you go. You got sound now.
Excellent.
That's how you can tell this is live.
I like to be heard.
Yeah. Oh, and I know that, being Mr. Sylvia.
Jeez.
All right.
Well, I've got to move this along because we're running out of time. First story of the night comes out of Norristown, Pennsylvania. I wonder if Chuck lives there. Not Canadian. Authorities say a man living in a suburban Philadelphia assisted living facility has lost his housing subsidy after officials found a prostitute underneath his bed.
Oh,
Some people put magazines under there, maybe some shoes. I have my sports memorabilia under my bed, but this old man has a hooker.
Well, good for him.
Yuri Munson tells the Intelligencer newspaper that the man, believed to be in his 70s, paid prostitutes using profits that he earned from peddling alcohol to the other residents in the assisted living facility.
So he's working it.
Munson says the man was a more mobile gentleman who went on booze runs for his neighbors.
Okay.
I guess everybody's friend. The incident was reported Thursday after county commissioners authorized contract extensions with private facilities housing former residents of the closed county-owned assisted living facility. Okay. County paid more than $1 million to subsidize assisted living care for 21 seniors last year.
Wow.
Who does that?
$1 million for 21 seniors.
No, you're supposed to do it like this. $1 million.
$1 million.
There you go.
All right, this comes out of Miami. All kinds of interesting things go on there. A South Florida man is suing a hospital for emotional distress, saying his leg was amputated and then just casually thrown in the garbage with his name tag still on it.
Oh, no.
How embarrassing. Probably saw his leg on his newsfeed.
That's the actual leg, by the way. Just to let you folks know.
I have not seen that. Okay, that's pretty damn gross.
I had a movie graphic over, too.
I'm looking at a leg. Why isn't it blue? It looks like it still has color in it.
Well, yeah, we'll move on.
Anywho, this man, his name was John. He was 56. He's 56 years old. He had his right leg amputated below the knee in October at Doctors Hospital in Coral Gables.
Okay.
Rather than properly disposing on the plaintiff's limb as expected and as required by Florida law, doctors just threw it into the garbage with tags indicating that it belonged to the plaintiff.
In the garbage.
According to the Miami-Dade lawsuit. A month later, he said that his family was contacted by homicide detectives investigating if he had been the victim of foul play.
Oh, boy.
Oh, my God. When the family went back to the hospital to find out what happened, they were told it would provide no explanation for what had occurred.
Oh, my.
Doctors Hospital Inc., part of the Baptist Health South Florida Inc., said it could not discuss the incident because of patient privacy.
Yeah.
You're kidding, right?
Oh, wait. You can't discuss the incident because of patient privacy.
Right.
But you can throw his leg
with the name
in
tag
the
still on
public dumpster.
Ass wipes.
Who does that?
Really, we should just go up on the website and just slam them. Let's leave them a 1-star rating. However, when doctors of the... we can say that when Doctors Hospitals notified the situation, leaders took immediate and appropriate measures to address it. Proper procedures have been reinforced to the hospital.
Oh, you think?
To prevent similar situations from happening in the future.
Oh, man.
He wrote the hospital in January, still got no response. The hospital's conduct is being billed as outrageous and beyond the bounds of human decency, as to be regarded as odious and utterly intolerable in a civilized community.
All right.
That's a good lawyer. Leg
does
was
that?
discovered at Waste Management and reported to police.
Is he suing? He is suing, right?
He's suing for the hospital for
$1
negligence and
million.
failing to protect his private medical information. I've heard of the people having the wrong limb removed, but hospitals aren't supposed to just throw them away.
Yeah, isn't there a procedure for getting rid of that crap?
That's so gross.
Oh, boy.
Last story of the night. As we know, children are so impressionable. This comes from La Center, Washington. A Washington teen who strapped fake explosives to his body in a stunt to ask a date to the prom has been suspended from school. Columbia newspaper in Vancouver. That's Canadian.
Yep, that is Canadian.
Yes. Reports that the 5-day suspension will prevent Ibrahim Ahmad from attending La Center's high school dance on Saturday. 18-year-old senior says he was trying to go all out with his proposal, wearing a vest filled with paper tube props made to look like explosives. At lunchtime, he stood in this cafeteria stage and held a sign that he was the bomb, inviting his would-be date to the prom. So the principal says that his actions are inexcusable. He deserved punishment for disrupting the learning environment. The girl accepted, however. So I guess they just went to dinner that night.
All right. Okay.
Nice girl.
Wow.
Who does that?
Definitely something you want to introduce to your parents.
I know. What does it say? I know it's a little late, but I'm kind of the bomb. Will you be my date at the prom?
There's just other ways you could have gone about that.
There's lots of cutesy ways. There is.
Too soon.
There's lots of cutesy ways to ask your girl to the prom. That's not one of them, jackass. Really.
Really, I mean, I just used to get like a phone call from a guy. No, we didn't have texting back in the Stone Ages.
Want to go to the prom?
Just a phone call or like a note passed. It looked like a football. Want to go to the prom?
Yeah, that's right. The little triangular thing.
I mean, what happened to that? Is communication that boring that we have to go to this extreme? Anyway, we have 10 minutes to talk about our next subject. So.
All right. Well, thank you.
I'll shush now.
Well, great job as usual. And, we do want to get into the subject. We're not going to take our other break. We're just going to tell you that our main subject tonight is brought to you by the folks that are presenting The Skull Hunter, an all-new graphic novel available exclusively at IndiePlanet heroinepidemic.com. And what we're going to get into now is what's come to be known as an epidemic in this country. And Shannon, when I started doing research on this for this topic, I was absolutely shocked at what I found. And what do you think? Let me ask you first off, what do you think the average age of a heroin addict is?
I want to say it's younger than I think. I want to say it's 21.
23 years old.
Oh, boy.
23 years old is your average age for a heroin addict. Now, to define a heroin addict, an addict is somebody that uses daily and has probably already had an overdose. Shannon, what I found, these people are, they're not your stereotypical, scums of the earth, stuck in a corner, with barely, clothes on their back. These are white-collar people. These are, believe that. And I'll tell you, the greatest majority now is white men and women between the ages of 23 and, between the ages of 18 and 31.
I absolutely believe that.
There's your sample size right now. These are their kids. The kids that are getting into this now, it's unbelievably staggering.
Well, they're saying that these kids start their heroin addiction, as you've heard before, pills. Pills is the gateway drug to opiate addiction.
That's what it is.
Narcotics.
Oxycodone is a huge problem in this country. It's not only kids. It's white collar lawyers. It's doctors. It's professionals of all kinds. It's soldiers, Shannon. There are soldiers that are coming home from war that are so traumatized, that are so just mentally depleted and just crushed.
They're snorting it. They're injecting it. There's different ways to do it. It's staggering, actually. And now, because it's 2015, this has become such a popular thing. I got to say, and there were 183,000 drug-related deaths, mostly overdose, in 2012 alone. That is doubling now in 2015.
Let me give you another staggering comparison. In 2007, only slightly more than 2,000 people in 2007. So if you can believe that, it's doubled just in the last year. It's doubled, Shannon. So
how many people you say in 2007?
I'm reading according to the Psychiatry JAMA Journal. Heroin abuse is both growing and spreading. In 2007, over 2,000 people died of heroin overdoses, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention in this country. So that's from the CDC in 2007.
Because in 2007, the National Drug Use and Health Center reported 153,000 heroin users.
Overdoses.
That's users.
Right. So
other
that's
estimates
not
gave figures as high as 900,000.
Right. That's users. That's not deaths.
Right.
So what they're saying is that 2.1 in every 100,000 people is a heroin user. And now there's places in the country like New York City where that figure is like 6.2 people for every 100,000. It's absolutely staggering. Theories behind this is that it's so obtainable and it's cheap now.
And
it's incredibly cheap.
It's I don't know how incredibly cheap it is because I've never even seen it before, but it's extremely addictive within the first use.
Well, let me give you a comparison. Oxycodone pills on the street can cost up to $80.
For one pill?
Yes, for oxycodone.
Jeez, I should sell some of mine.
A hit of heroin is $10. Okay, so you can pretty much
crack is $5.
The average addict uses between $125 and $200 a day.
Nice
habit, if you can imagine. And Shannon,
how do they get the money?
Well, they beg, borrow, and steal. It's
I can't even get that kind of money. I don't understand how a drug addict can do it. I know they steal. I've dealt with it personally. I knew somebody that was a heroin addict.
Usually it's dealing. Because we only have a couple minutes left, I want to move you along. And I know this is a sensitive subject for you because you just lost a friend from high school.
Well, it hasn't been confirmed as to the cause of his death, so we won't talk about that yet. But there's rumors circulating. I'm just hoping I'm wrong. So
Okay. Well,
I've lost a lot of friends to heroin, though.
There's also people that we know. A good friend of mine that I played hockey with. Never in a million years would I have thought he was an addict, and died of a heroin overdose. And these people are dying at young ages. This is something we're really going to have to take into next week, because I really want to get into a lot of this. There's a lot of information to divulge here. Not only, how can you tell the signs if your loved one or family member or friend is becoming an addict? What can you do to help them? And really the answer is they have to help themselves. But there are things that you can be on the lookout for, and there's just a lot of information that we need to give you about this, because I guess for this episode we're going to tell you how serious it is. We're going to tell you it's affecting families everywhere. It's affecting not only the urban areas where it's been stereotyped for many years.
Oh, definitely the suburbs.
It's now in suburbs. It's now in the upper neighborhoods. Your kids that are, we just heard a story in the news last week, head of her class, had cheerleader, dean's list, 4.0 average, 2 years out of high school, dead from heroin. Just absolutely astounding.
2 weeks out of high school.
Astounding. Absolutely astounding.
Had a little baby. And it's everywhere. It's every town. I bet you know somebody that's been affected by it. I certainly know quite a few, so I would like to touch base on this more, because there's so much to talk about. I believe we have an interview lined up.
Okay. Yeah, we do. We have an interview lined up from a recovering addict who's going to help us understand the grip that this thing has. And I've known a few people along the way, Shannon, that I've seen get mixed up with this stuff firsthand, and it changes people. It just absolutely changes people. People, it sounds so cliche, but until you've seen it for yourself, they become an absolute shell of a human being. You can see their face just become sunken in. Their bodies look unhealthy. They lose family members and friends. They distance themselves from people they love. They lose their jobs. They don't care for their children. They're not out working to help society. What they're doing is absolutely destroying everything and everyone around them. So what we're going to hope to do here is carry this on into next week. I'd love to hear from you on Facebook if you are a recovering addict, if you know somebody that is struggling with addiction. We do want to hear from you, because any information that we can get out there, I think, is going to be helpful. For example, we heard from a friend up in the New Hampshire area where, it just seems that every single week he's going to one or two or even more funerals for people that he knows. So, when it starts hitting that close to home, and especially like if you're an addict and you're seeing people around that have lost the battle, because it is a battle. It's an everyday battle. Any addict will tell you it's 24 hours at a time. Wow. It's getting through that one day and then waking up the next day and finding a reason to get through that next day. And when their brethren, if you will, people that they know and have been attached to, lose that battle, it's not only very discouraging, but it also raises, all that awareness as to how this has become an epidemic in our country. So we really hope that we can divulge into a little bit more of this next week. We're going to find out what JT thinks. We're going to open up the phone lines at 323-902-6661. We do want to remind you that you can watch us anywhere 24/7 on your handheld mobile devices. Follow us on Facebook. Find us on YouTube. And until next week, on behalf of